The Guapi Trail, which of course is Spanish for the Guapi, discovered by the Germans in 1904 on their San Diego expedition. Uh, Anyhow, that little screenshot was just the trail on Trailforks, so it's about 500 feet of climbing, 800 feet of descent, more or less, to round up, and assuming their topo is accurate, which not always is. In probably without the like flat parts at the beginning and end, not really flat, but I call them blue trails, just like connector to get there. It's probably in about 2 miles of trail, so like straight up and straight down as much as is really rideable. Trail geology is super unique, at least to Vegas, in that these gray rocks right here are solid volcanic rocks. Basalt, I think. Reminds me a lot of the rock in Hawaii, but a little bit smoother to ride over than like say Bootleg Canyon, which also has a like solid rock, but theirs is like jagged and chunky, whereas this is a little bit nicer to ride up. Anyhow, it's super sharp though, so definitely want to avoid crashes, obviously, but extra avoidance in Vegas, just because of all the cactus and the rocks, and like you don't want to go head first in any of this stuff, or even just like brush it. It'll definitely cut you pretty deeply. You can see like avoiding cactus just becomes second nature, even when you get like, super close. But so I think, like I said, this is a pretty new trail, probably the newest one in Vegas, as of at least June of 2025. Figured I would do my first drone video for this, give it a shot using drone. You can see the iPhone in my little Osprey backpack. Kind of a lot of extra weight to carry up with the batteries and everything, but whatever. Quality is pretty awesome, so that's cool. Yeah, like always, back to riding in Vegas. Keep an eye out for the cactus and stuff, and it's especially true on this trail since it's pretty new. Like there aren't a lot of alternate lines, and if you veer off the trail just even a little bit for a little while, probably chances are pretty good that you're going to clip some cactus and possibly get a flat. So top up on sealant, and try to keep an eye on where you're going. It is pretty slow up for sure, so you have a lot of time if you stay focused. But yeah, so not too much loose stuff. You can see it kind of spun out a little bit there. But this trail is pretty firm, especially for Vegas. Like compared to maybe the Hurl, compared to the Hurl, like definitely more compacted. It's kind of probably even more compacted than like even Kibbles and Bits, which are maybe the two more well-known kind of tech climbs. Technically wise, I'd say like in terms of skill, Kibbles and Bits probably has like more combinations, more variety of different moves that you need to get right, and it's also a lot longer. In terms of fitness, I think this is probably like yard for yard, meter for meter, just about as tough as it gets in Vegas. Like on an actual dedicated climb that you're not like trying to go up a downhill or something. It's just pretty relentless, and there's always something in your way or something to knock you off your line and something to go up. Some really tight switchbacks in here. Obviously, like the drone flattens everything out and makes it look a little bit more manageable than it probably is on your first ride. But yeah, this trail has a pretty wide variety of everything. Like going back to the comparison with the hurl, I don't find the hurl to be really like that much of anything. Like it's fun, I guess, and all, but not really that challenging technically or physically. It's like pretty short and sweet and direct. There's a couple sections, but like here, even though it looks really flat and probably nothing, like that volcanic rock is just super janky and like bumpy, and you can see I'm getting bounced around everywhere. Probably had my suspension pumped up a little bit too much too, I guess, but yeah, definitely keeps your balance engaged for pretty much the whole ride up. I think this area in particular is probably one of the most beautiful riding places in Vegas. It's just super picturesque. You're right on the inside of Red Rock Canyon Conservation Area, I guess they call it, reserve. You can see that mountain in the background. There's a new trail there too called Skyfall. Super fun. I've ridden it once each direction. I think going east to west is a little bit better, more flow, and just a little bit more fun. Seems to be built that way. You can definitely ride it the other direction, but it's just doesn't flow as well, and there's a lot of like just max output spinning up. Some really loose stuff since it's new too at this point, but maybe it'll get ridden in and a little bit more fun going in the other direction. But cool trail. Definitely like an XC feel. Has some kind of bigger-ish drops, like 5 foot, maybe 5-6 feet. But they're all pretty straightforward. So if that's your thing, you can maybe make a day out of this riding east to west. You can start off on Skyfall and then come down on one of the fire roads and like link up with this. I haven't done that, but you'd have to get on the maps and plot your way. Probably like ride through some washes and stuff, but definitely doable if you're feeling like it. You can see like the little pink cactus, little barrel cactus, I think they're called, not sure. But those are one of the ones that you got to watch out for. There's a couple other types too. The yucca plants, like those brighter green spiky ones, are pretty gnarly too. I've had them puncture my car tire even. They'll definitely prick your hands pretty good if you brush by them in the wrong direction, or your leg, your knee. So keep an eye out for all that kind of stuff. You can see Turtlehead Peak way back out there in the background. Pretty popular hiking trail. It goes up from Calico. I've actually never done it. I've done Pillar Peak. It's right about 7,000 feet across this little valley. Actually, kind of the top of where that Skyfall trail is. But the area is pretty remote, especially like this trail. It's not really well known, and it's not like a hikeable distance, I would say, from like a tourist parking place. Kind of don't want to give out where you should park here publicly on YouTube. If you want to ride this trail, feel free to message me. Happy to like provide some guidance. But for a variety of reasons, probably best to not not say it in this video. But yeah, so the area is pretty remote. Honestly, cell phone reception may or may not have it. I think I don't know if I've ever tried to use a cell phone out here. But if you have like the Garmin InReach or any of those things, like it's probably good to bring it. The climb up is not particularly sketchy or anything. There's no exposure or anything like that. Obviously you see, but you can stop anywhere along the way if you need to, or you have a mechanical or whatever. But on the descent, it's a little bit more high stakes. I don't know. Descents in general, downhills are more prone to accidents, so definitely be prepared. Let people know where you're going, because if something happens, you're not likely to be found very quickly. first little switchback where you get a view down of Vegas, Summerlin down there. Get the range in the background. All that cool stuff. Plenty of great views on this trail for sure. You can see there, I brushed the yucca plant just exactly like I said not to. They sneak up on you. So, first time filming with the drone, I didn't realize using this active track thing that would drain the battery like twice as fast. So, kind of lost my focus, but didn't knock those rocks off into the trail. So, kept on trucking. But yeah, this active track where there's just, it's auto following you, just drains the battery like crazy. So, happens one more time in this video where I had to stop and restart everything and change batteries. But luckily it happened on this one. It happened both times actually on like the flatter part of the trail. So, or at least a little like flat 5 meter section. So can stop. Stop and take a break. But especially right now, there's been some like trail maintenance that's been going on. So these parts that are like steeper, that are kind of just dirt, are definitely manageable. Not too loose. I'm sure by the end of summer they'll be ready for another raking. But like right now it's fine. This trail's pretty small. You can see I'm like brushing plenty of bushes and stuff. Trying to get by them, but you know, again, like just be conscious of where you're riding, and should be fine. You can see making the switchbacks, like there's Summerlin down in the background. You got Vegas on the other side. Red Rock Casino, there's a strip, all that stuff. But very, very cool place to ride bikes. Hopefully get more people out here on this side riding. It's good for the advocacy aspect of it, and it's just an awesome place to ride. Usually this part of Vegas is about like 10 degrees cooler than anywhere else, just because you have the fresh breezes blowing down from the mountains. That cold air gets pushed up and cools down and then kind of flows back down through these valleys. So generally a nice place to ride, even when it's hot down below in the valley, if you don't want to make the trip all the way up to Charleston. Yeah, and like the yucca plants, when they bloom and stuff, everything's so tight on the trail, you gotta hopefully try to avoid it. It's pretty well marked. You can see whoever built it did put in some like green dots every once in a while. So especially going up, it's pretty evident where the trail is. None of these that are really steep enough that'll like hit your bottom bracket, but there's definitely a lot of them where you need to avoid pedal strikes, or it can throw you off. These off-camber tight switchbacks. Almost kind of got to do a wheelie and unweight the front a little bit. there. Had to tilt the bike over to keep it from smacking the pedal. Starting to get towards the top. You can start to overlook like the rest of Red Rock Canyon. I think that one right above me is called Painted Wall, where a lot of the climbers out here in Vegas cut their teeth, I guess. Not a climber, so I don't know, but I've seen clips on social media of people out there. So, kind of interesting. It's funny when you watch yourself ride. It's like really feel like I'm getting that rear suspension bouncing around like crazy. I don't know. Gotta take it to Squish Labs or something. But probably time for a service. Builds up over time. Here is pretty cool. You get to the crest and you overlook Calico Basin and everything. Not quite there yet to the top, but there is a nice like short little section of flat, and you can go up, and it's a good place to just take a breather, get some water, if you're not wearing a pack or whatever. Get some water and take in the views. Again, everything's pretty spectacular in terms of scenery up here. Definitely way better than like Bootleg or Bear's Best, or I'd say pretty much anywhere other than like even cowboy trails. They don't really have as much I don't know, flora and fauna out there on top of the mesa. But might just be my personal opinion. So here's a little flat part where you can, if you go to the right, you can take a little breather. If you go up to the crest, you can overlook Calico. It's a nice place to sit down right before you start the descent. Now we get into the descent. I think the big thing on the descent is just brake control. There's a lot of parts where you really don't want to overshoot it because there's no room and it doesn't look immediately evident. So here's a little chute. Definitely avoid those rocks. They'll cut up your clothes at the best or leave you with some mean scrapes at the worst. But not really a high-speed descent at all. Just kind of more super steep and technical, especially with the grippy rock. A little bit of loose stuff here and there, but not too bad. You can see the cliffs are pretty dramatic down below. Although there's not really, at least on this part, there's not that much exposure. I guess there's not that much exposure on any of it. But you are pretty high up. So I guess possibilities there if you really screw something up, but have to be pretty bad. The drone does a pretty good job of keeping up, actually. Like this part's not that steep on the descent, but once it starts getting really steep, you can see the drone doesn't like to go down in altitude and follow you, so it kind of, I don't know, does weird stuff. But is what it is. Still super cool. Amazing technology that we all have access to nowadays. Take a seat, take a little break. This part's super fun. The cruise pretty quick. And this part is like, I don't know, it feels like a roller coaster. It's just like one way, then the other way. These real steep little, I don't know what they're, little not shoots, but little drops. I don't know. I saw some people say it's not a flowy trail at all. I think this is pretty flowy. Even if you do have to have good brake control, it's still pretty fun. Pretty well marked. Again, I'm not sure who built this part of it, but I have a feeling it might have been some kids. I don't know. They painted everything green, which, love it or hate it, it's pretty easy to follow the trail. Kind of makes it a little bit more fun to take the lines, a little bit faster than maybe if you didn't know where the trail went. But little shoots, little drops, in and out of this super grippy stuff. I don't know what the gradients are on these, but they're definitely pretty steep. Like definitely on par with any of the double blacks in the area. Since it's so grippy and everything, it's not really. It just doesn't feel as like death defying. Like compared to Bone Shaker or something, like the second half of Bone Shaker, like those real steep parts, it's just so loose and sketchy that it's a different feel. But the steepness is definitely there on this. This part of the trail is super annoying. I don't know. I think at some point somebody will just collectively agree just to make like a straight line down to where this trail goes, because these cutbacks are like just loose enough and just steep enough to be annoying and not really that fun. But anyhow, my personal opinion. Battery goes again. Don't stop. Put a new battery. So this is kind of like your last chance to make a decision. Like if you're feeling good and you want to like keep going for a little bit more, like the most intense part of the trail, then stick to the right as it forks. If you've had enough after the climb and then the descent, right here you'll want to go left, and that'll take you down like a little kind of rock garden thing, back to the blues and green trails. Or conversely, if you go down this section and you want to do it again, you can climb back up that section. It's not too bad of a climb. So this part of the trail is super, super new. I had done the other part, the climb and the downhill, probably like, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and just didn't end up where I thought it could. So prayed to the Minihuni Trail builder gods, and this popped up. So still really raw. You'll see here I almost biff it on like a non-issue part. I don't know what happened, but be careful. So the trail picks back up in intensity pretty quick here. Got this little jump, get on the brakes, and then you cross over this pretty interesting crevice, pretty deep. And from here on out, it's just basically going down the cliff face, again, on this like super grippy volcanic rock. So there's some loose stuff mixed in. But the lines are pretty obvious. There is maybe like an alternate line going to the left instead of the right here. I haven't tried it yet, but I think, I don't know, could be an option. I'll have to scout it out a little bit more. But not a lot of room for error in this part. Like you either hit the cactus or if you hit those rocks, you're going over the bars for sure and tumbling down a very steep part. This part's pretty chunky and everything wants to throw you over the bars. Kind of typical of other descents around Vegas, especially like those couple new ones out in Bears Best that got built recently. And from here, you just want to let it go after this curve. Got a little rock gap and then a jump gap over some cactus at the end. Fun little way to end it. And then you can see like those telephone poles. That's where the fire road goes. my suggestion would be kind of like veer more to the right in this direction, like heading towards Painted Wall and like over there, the Red Rocks. You don't have to cross any of the washes or like go through the sandy stuff. It's just like a straight trail. So that's the Guapi Trail.